Hello, my name is Dale Jackson, and I went to UW for a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, and I took the Peers Seminar course in fall of 2010, and I was appointed to be a Peers leader in winter 2011 up until the point of when I graduated UW in fall of 2012. So my professional and or academic current background right now is that of an industrial controls engineer contractor. And as far as academics are concerned, I do a great deal of studying to maintain fluency in electrical engineering studies, and hopefully that'll open up some new doors to new opportunities in the future. So that's where I'm at currently in my career development. But one thing electrical engineering has definitely taught me and impressed upon me from its outstart is that pretty much you are going to be a student for life, always learning new things or new ways of doing something that you have already accomplished. Maybe there's a new, different way to do it, and so therefore, even if you're really well grounded in it, you will at least probably still keep up with the current trends in technology. So I have definitely incorporated that into a lifestyle of lifelong study. So I will go over some survey questions that I have already responded to, and I'll give you those responses. There are two of them. They're open-ended questions, so I did elaborate a lot on them. And then there's three optional questions, extra optional questions to answer that I will respond to as well. So question number one, if you feel that the class was valuable to your college experience, please elaborate below with specific experiences, stories, and or overall significance. My response is that the subject content of Peers is unique and essential to the engineering curriculum because it analyzes social issues that are very real, both in academia and definitely in the working world of industry. My experience is that I had the opportunity to learn the material in the class and then apply it. I applied it when I was appointed to become a Peers leader and did presentations on the subject matter from the class. The subject material is very effective in creating an understanding of the current demographics in engineering. The presentations have a positive influence on all who are in attendance. This is important to understand because of the psychological impact on engineers, both minority and majority. So when peers do these lecture series, doesn't matter whether or not a person is considered to be in the minority or majority, it has a positive impact on everyone by basically discussing these contemporary issues within science and engineering industries themselves. So I went on to say, my independent research has shown me that the psychological legacy that created the demographic problems in society and consequently engineering has done it over a 400-year span. And I put here in parentheses, it started at White Lion slave ship, Jamestown, Virginia, year 1619. So you can look this up for yourself, and you can do extra study on this yourself, but this was my own independent research myself that I did. So I went on to state that Peers is not a class about the history of slavery, and they won't, at least the curriculum was such that when I was in it, that's not what they did. They didn't focus on that. So Peers is not a class about the history of slavery, but instead focuses on contemporary issues facing engineers using statistical data and published information on the subject. It is very helpful to have a program like Peers analyze and discuss contemporary issues so that awareness can create progress to help mitigate the complications of a 400-year-old psychological legacy problem. Peers is the only course at UW that addresses these very important and very real contemporary social issues. Number 2, if you feel that the class has been valuable in your professional life, please elaborate below with stories of the impact with specific experiences, stories, and/or overall significance. I responded by saying, the class has been very valuable in my professional life. It has kept me encouraged and motivated when I have been at work and only see one type of people working there. In my job role as an engineer, I have worked at companies that were approximately 98% of one type of people. Understanding the psychology that creates various situations helps me objectively evaluate myself. Objective self-evaluation is important because there are so many psychologically biased individuals that may demotivate you because they simply do not want you to succeed because you are not of their classification type. I knew when people around me at the job were biased and when they were not. Understanding this problem is critical to psychological and emotional health in the work world of industry. Peers helped me to stay motivated in these situations because it created an understanding of complex and compounded social problems. One story that is typical in industry that I have experienced many times is that of unequally applying hiring restrictions. I would be at a job that states the requirement of an engineering job at the company is a 4-year Bachelor of Science engineering degree. After I got the job, I would be introduced to some people that I would work with that got hired with a 2-year associate technician level degree, but as an engineer. These technician level degree people were of the majority group and had problems doing their engineering level work, yet they had been there for years. I was expected to come in and mentor and therefore transfer my skills to them. How could I cope with the stress of knowing what I was being put through if I didn't understand why it was like this? Unfortunately, this situation is very typical, and having an understanding of it is the best way to mentally cope with it. It helps to understand that this is a particular form of privilege that exists widely in industry. Please feel free to contact me for more stories and typical situations of experience in engineering job roles. When I saw this as being a chronic episode that just kept happening, I mean, I was, it wasn't just at one company. It was at more than one company, multiple companies, that I would be working with someone and, they have a associate level degree and, they're hired in there as an engineer, and before I know it, I have a boss telling me, well, can you extend yourself to mentor this person and, teach them what you know? And I'm thinking like, well, I don't understand it. If they can't do their own thing, then why do I have to go out of my way to be a mentor? And then I saw that, okay, this is a nice way of framing the idea that you want me to transfer my skills to them, which is unfair. But why are you urging me to do that? Well, it's because you like this person. This comes about through being mentally biased, and there are several different reasons to like someone. So, I mean, you can like somebody because they're tall, because they're short, because they wear a certain hat, or you could like them because of some particular demographic group that they belong to, right? So, therefore, I saw this and experienced it a lot. So, Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I was made aware of by taking the peers course and reading through the material that they had collected and compiled and had basically a directory for on their website to point you out to various different articles where this actually, is not just an isolated incident. This is, this happens a lot actually, but I actually experienced it. So I'll go ahead and get into the extra questions section now. These are optional, but I want to answer them anyways. So I'll answer them. There's 3 of them. Number 1, what topics taught in the peers class did you find the most valuable in your academic and professional life? I think all of them were valuable, both in my academic and professional life, because they're very relevant. And when I took the course, there was 6 topic areas that we covered: biology, talent, hard work. So that's topic number 1. And the idea or the question is, what matters and what weighs more into a person's development of competencies? Is it biology, like, well, my mother and father were smart, so I'm going to be smart? Is it talent, like, oh, well, my mother and father both are great musicians, they know how to play the piano very well, so I think I'm going to be great because they're going to, maybe pass their talent on to me, or maybe they weren't great, but I just have the talent, and the talent is just going to, keep me being great, and that's all I need is talent, so I can't develop talent, so I might as well forget about it if I don't have the talent. Or is it hard work as a main contributor to progress and proficiency in a certain type of field of work? Number 2, stereotypes and stereotype threat. Number 3, socialization. Number 4, implicit bias. Number 5, uneven playing field. Or number 6, privilege. So these were the 6 areas of topics that we covered in peers when I took the seminar, and I think it was great to cover those topics, and I think they are valuable in both academic and professional life. Number 2, overall, how has the content of the peers class impacted your actions and or mindset? So as far as my mindset is concerned, it's allowed me to brace myself for things that are, inevitably going to come my way eventually. And so I would liken it to an analogy of, say, like a hurricane. Say there was a hurricane that you saw it on TV, that it was heading your way. Well, there's nothing you can do to stop this hurricane, but you can take the necessary preparation steps in order to mitigate the negative effects of it as much as you can within reasonable, abilities of yours. So that means, you will probably put some boards up on your window. You will go to the grocery store and stock up on basic necessities like food and water, things like that, so that you can basically try to ride out the storm as best as you can. You may leave town, things like that. But let's imagine that you didn't watch the news and you had no idea that a hurricane was coming. Well, if it caught you off guard and you had no idea of it, you had no idea that hurricanes exist, you looked out the window and you just saw things blowing around violently, and the rain is coming down really hard, and the wind is strong enough, it's blowing things over, then you don't know what's going on. You couldn't brace yourself for it. You couldn't prepare for it in any kind of a way. So I think that that's a worse situation of a condition to be in, regardless of the fact that maybe even with awareness, you don't necessarily have enough ability to do something about it, but you can prepare yourself for it. So I think being prepared for it is a good way to be able to cope with it better. So Peers has impacted my mindset by making me aware of these things so that I can better prepare myself for it as I see fit. So that was question number 2. And number 3, do you think it would be beneficial to offer this course more often? Please elaborate on why or why not. I think it would be beneficial to offer this course every quarter of the school year, and not only every quarter of the school year, but probably to multiple schools, different schools, because it's not something that affects only a certain demographic of people or a certain number of people. It affects everybody. Everybody is subjected to this every day in the workplace. And I mean, whether or not you're on the side where you're being negatively impacted or positively impacted, you're impacted somehow. So for the negatively impacted people, I mean, that goes without saying that if if you took this course, it would help you be able to cope with all of the negative impacts that come through these complex social issues with this, mental bias going on in people's minds. But on the majority side, where these people are being positively impacted by this, it would at least let them know that these issues exist, and that perhaps maybe you aren't in the position that you're in simply because you are very competent at what you're doing and you totally deserve it. Perhaps there could be a certain amount of privilege that has made it possible for you to be where you're at. And therefore, at that point, possibly it may make some of those people a little bit more humble. And they will realize that they're just fortunate to have the positions that they do, and it's not necessarily due to competence or even hard work in and of itself. So with that being said, yes, I think it should be offered year-round, every quarter, and ideally at every school, because again, it impacts everyone, not just some people or other people, everyone. So that completes the survey questions, and I do thank you for taking the time to listen to my responses to this. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.